Some spiders are good, others not so much. With the Weber rework, characters can put spiders into their inventory, allowing all 7 types of spiders to be used in any situation. Before the update, I don't believe there was a viable way to bring cave spiders to the surface. Now that we have the update, I think the various spiders of Don't Starve Together can finally be reasonably compared to one another. This tier list doesn't just apply to Weber mains, since other characters can also control spiders once they obtain the spider hat. This tier list will compare the spiders based on 2 different criteria: combat ability and availability. Combat ability will be defined by how effective are the spiders at fighting. Availability is how much time or resources does the player need in order to befriend the spider. I don't think combat ability can be the lone criteria. In Don't Starve Together, one of the key components of the game is efficiency. For example, Mandrake soup on paper is the most beneficial food item in the game. However, I wouldn't even consider it a good item simply because its recipe is so expensive. With that out of the way, here is my Don't Starve Together spider tier list. First up, the normal spider. The normal spider has 100 HP, which is by far the lowest of all spiders. Attack-wise, it has a standard close-range bite attack, dealing 20 damage, and has a decent attack speed of 3, which translates to about 1 attack every 3 seconds. The normal spider is also one of the only spider types that can be stun locked. Every time your spider is hit with an attack, it resets the attack timer. Therefore, your spider will have to wait another 3 seconds to attack. Because of its very low HP, low attack range, and the ability to be stun locked, the normal spider is the weakest of all spiders when it comes to combat. There's a reason Weber doesn't have a normal spider Switcherdoodle, because there's literally no situation where you'd want a normal spider more than any of the other ones. Compared to any other spider, normal spiders are a complete downgrade. However, when it comes to availability, the normal spider is unmatched. They spawn from spider dens, which are abundant in most forests, and many can be easily found on the surface world. Tier 1 spider dens hold 3, Tier 2 holds 6, and Tier 3 holds 9 normal spiders each. Due to their sheer numbers, Weber can easily amass an army of them with very little monster meat. Of all its weaknesses, the low HP is the worst, since most of the larger enemies are able to instantly kill them. In these cases, your normal spiders don't benefit at all from the spider nurse's healing ability. Their ability to be stun locked doesn't matter much against single powerful enemies, but against swarms of hounds, frogs, or enemy spiders, this could be very detrimental to the effectiveness of your army. If your spiders are getting attacked once every 3 seconds, they won't even be able to fight back. On the other hand, being extremely abundant in forests and set pieces like the spider quarry, as well as spawning from spider dens, which can be picked up and moved around the world, they are by far the cheapest spider to befriend. Considering those points, I'd put the normal spider at the top of the D tier. Despite them being by far the weakest in combat, and gaining limited benefits from nurses, they aren't F tier since it's extremely easy to obtain them. Alright, next we have the Spider Warrior. The Spider Warrior has 400 HP, which is 4 times more than a normal spider. Also, unlike normal spiders, Spider Warriors have 2 attacks, the normal bite and the long range lunge attack. Both attacks deal 20 damage. The only difference is that the lunge attack is much more difficult to dodge, and makes the Spider Warrior far more mobile than its normal counterpart. Another advantage that the Spider Warrior has over its normal counterpart is that it can't be stun locked. It doesn't matter how quickly you attack it, it will still attack back after its attack interval. The normal spider does have one advantage over the Spider Warrior when it comes to combat: attack speed. While the normal spider attacks about every 3 seconds, it takes the Spider Warrior 6 seconds to attack. It seems that at dusk, night, and in the caves, their attack speed increases to once every 4.2 seconds, so it's significantly better, but still not as fast as the regular spider. This means that if we are talking strictly about damage per second, the Spider Warrior is only half as effective as the normal spider. However, when you consider that the Spider Warrior has 4 times the health of the normal spider, it stays alive a lot longer, which translates to more overall damage in an actual fight. This is especially true if your Spider Warriors are being healed by a nurse. With 400 HP, it will usually take 3 hits from even the strongest enemies in order to bring them down. Since they aren't being taken down in a single hit, they survive long enough for the Spider Nurse to heal some of their damage. This allows them to inflict even more damage since they'll be in the fight even longer. Combat-wise, they are in almost every way a direct upgrade to the normal spider. When it comes to availability, they are the second cheapest spider in the game in my opinion. They spawn from Tier 2 and Tier 3 spider dens, So like normal spiders, their spawns can be moved by the player to a very convenient location. Unlike the normal spider, they will only spawn when either a spider or the spider den itself is attacked while on the den's webbing. Even then, their numbers aren't nearly as great as normal spiders. You can also spawn them using Weber's Whistle, but I would not recommend this, since the whistle only brings out one spider warrior. Attacking a spider on a nest with a weak attack and instantly shoeboxing is the way to go if you want to spawn the most warriors. Using this method will spawn 2 spider warriors from a tier 2 den, and 4 from a tier 3. Considering how easy it is for even non-Weber characters to relocate spider dens and let them grow into tier 3s, amassing an army of warriors this way is very cheap. Considering that in terms of combat, the spider warrior has the highest HP of all the spiders, is a direct upgrade to the normal spider in basically every area, and it's also very available, I rank the spider warrior as a solid A tier. Unlike the spider warrior, the next spider on the list not only possesses far more health than the normal spider, but it also boasts a good attack speed along with the highest damaging attack out of any spider. I'm talking about the Shattered Spider. The Shattered Spider has the highest attack damage out of all the spiders, with its standard bite doing 25 damage. It also has a ranged attack that deals an underwhelming 10 damage per hit. However, it's actually an area of effect attack, which means if you're fighting a swarm of opponents, it has the ability to do far more than just 10 damage. The attack actually does damage twice. It will deal 10 damage to the target when the spikes come up from the ground, and a few seconds later the spikes will then explode, causing an additional 10 damage. The Shattered Spider sits at 250 HP, which is far more than a normal spider, but far less than a spider warrior. At 250 HP, it can only survive 2 attacks from giants, like tree guards, deer clops, etc., which tends to deal about 150 damage per hit against mobs. Finally, the biggest advantage that the Shattered Spider has over the Spider Warrior is that it attacks twice as fast, and, like the Spider Warrior, it can't be stun locked. It also moves way faster than the Spider Warrior, moving faster than even the default player movement speed. So in combat, the Shattered Spider is stronger than the Spider Warrior. Its stronger attacks and faster attack speed more than make up for its lower HP. They are especially potent when fighting alongside Spider Nurses, since they can take at least one hit from almost any enemy in the game, allowing the Spider Nurse to heal them up in between attacks. The only problem is that sometimes they get stuck using their ranged spike attack. This drastically cuts down their effectiveness against a singular target. If this happens, you need to either lure the enemy to them or push them into the enemy. The availability of the Shattered Spider is a real issue though. In order to befriend them and unlock their Switcherdoodle, you need to sail to Lunar Island. This is not something that's easily done in early game without losing tons of valuable time that could be spent better elsewhere. They are found in shattered spider holes, each housing 2 to 4 shattered spiders depending on the spider hole's growth stage. Unlike spider dens that can be relocated to an easily accessible area, the shattered spider holes cannot be relocated, so in order to get shattered spiders, you'll need to either travel to Lunar Island every time you want more, or you will have to create them with the Shattered Switcherdoodle. The Shattered Switcherdoodles are expensive, as each Switcherdoodle requires 2 moon shards. If moon shards had no other uses, then this would be okay. However, they are the key crafting ingredient required to make the glass cutter, which is one of the strongest weapons in the game. Moon shards are renewable, but you'll usually have to wait for full moons in order to mine hot springs or Vitry oases. You can also get them by catching lunar lobsters and using green gems to craft and deconstruct glass cutters, but in my opinion, those methods are either time-consuming or a waste of resources. So the Shattered Spider is clearly a better fighter than the Spider Warrior. However, it's incomparably worse in terms of availability, meaning that you have to expend much more time or limited resources to get them. Because of this, I rank the Shattered Spider at the top of the C tier. The next spider is hard to place on the list. Like the Spider Warrior, it is also an upgrade to the normal spider in almost every way. The reason it's hard to peg down is because depending on where you are in the map, they can either be extremely abundant or non-existent at all. The spider I am talking about is the Dangling Depth Dweller. So stat-wise, the Dangling Depth Dweller is almost identical to the Spider Warrior. It has 400 HP, it can't be stun locked, it has both the bite and the lunge attack, and it has a slower attack speed. The minor difference between the two is that the Dangling Depth Dweller seems to have a shorter range on its lunge attack. In my opinion, this really doesn't make a difference in combat unless you are fighting an enemy that is very fast and moves all over the place. Because of this, it essentially ties with the Spider Warrior in combat ability. However, the availability of the Dangling Depth Dweller is very interesting. The best way to obtain these spiders are in the wild. Dangling Depth Dwellers aren't found anywhere on the surface. They can only be found in caves. Their nests are just webs on the ground without any type of spider den on them. Once the player steps on the web, 2 to 3 Dangling Depth Dwellers will descend from above and then attack once they reach the floor. These Depth Dweller webs are usually found in a few biomes in the caves. The one that's probably the closest to the cave entrances is the blue mushroom biome. They also appear sporadically near spelunkies in the ruins. Using the webby whistle, you can call down about 3 per web. You can get a decent number of them, but they are still not as easily available as the Spider Warriors, since you can get 4 at a time per den, make as many dens as you want, and can locate them in more convenient locations. The exception to this is when you get to the Labyrinth. The Labyrinth is the part of the ruins that leads to the Ancient Guardian. This area is covered in Dangling Depth Dweller webs. They are so abundant here that a single use of your webby whistle can call like 20 of them at a time. If you're in the Labyrinth, you can easily amass an enormous army of these Dangling Depth Dwellers. The numbers you can get are so ridiculous that if you're playing Weber and have a bunch of monster meat, a few nurses, and a boomerang, reaching the Labyrinth means that you've basically conquered the ruins, since pretty much nothing can stop you. You'll feel like a bully as you send 40 angry spiders flying at enemy clockworks that just get melted by their numbers. Even the Ancient Guardian won't be able to stop your army. The Labyrinth army is so strong that it makes Weber one of the only characters in the game that can effectively farm shadow spelunkies for valuable resources like nightmare fuel and cave bananas. The only thing you need to be wary of are multiple damaged rooks, as their charge deals 200 per hit against mobs. The ruins is easily the most dangerous location in the game, so it's especially helpful to be able to create an army of powerful spiders with such little resources. So where do we rank these guys on the list? If we're talking overall, I would rank them in the B tier. They don't spawn on the surface at all, and warriors are just better than them, since you can create reliable spider warrior spawners anywhere you want. However, if we're talking purely about basing next to the Labyrinth, I would say that these spiders are at the top of the A tier, since their numbers just blow away any threat you'll ever face in the ruins, except for shadow creatures. Like the Dangling Depth Dwellers, the next spider on the list can't be found anywhere on the surface, but can be found in large numbers if you're in the right spot in the caves. The spider that I'm talking about is the cave spider. Like the Spider Warrior, the cave spider is a direct upgrade to the normal spider, just in a different way. At 225 HP, it has far more health than the normal spider. It also shares the normal spider's faster attack speed, meaning it has a higher DPS than the warrior. Finally, when it takes enough consecutive hits in a row, or when it takes enough damage in a short amount of time, it hides in its shell. By hiding in its shell, the cave spider can't attack, but reduces all incoming damage to itself by 75%. This is actually a really good ability when paired with the Spider Nurse for 2 reasons. First, it gives the Spider Nurse time to use its healing ability when the cave spider's health is low. Without the 75% damage reduction, there's a much better chance of the cave spider dying against a powerful enemy before the nurse has a chance to heal it. Second, it stops the enemy from targeting the damaged cave spider. Since the cave spider can't attack while it's hiding in its shell, the enemy's aggro will be drawn to the other spiders that are attacking it, giving the cave spider even more opportunity to get healed by the nurse. The downsides of the cave spider is that it has far less health than the Spider Warrior, and, like the normal spider, they actually can be stun locked. Despite it having lower health than a warrior at 225 HP, it can survive at least one attack from almost all the strongest enemies in the game. When you couple that with its decent attack speed and hiding ability, cave spiders, in my opinion, might even be slightly better than the Spider Warriors when you have nurses on your team. They also have good availability. They spawn from stalagmites, and you can find many of these in the stalagmite terrain biome. Each stalagmite houses 2 to 3 spiders, and each of those spiders has a 67% chance of being a cave spider. One pass through the stalagmite terrain biome, and you should be able to amass quite an army of cave spiders. Their switcherdoodles require 2 cut stone, which can be expensive in early game, but later on, when you have tons of rocks in your inventory, they become more viable. Because they synergize with the nurse spider better than the Spider Warriors, and have decent availability once you find the stalagmite terrain biome, the cave spider is a solid middle B tier in my opinion. Unlike all the spiders on the list, the next spider is extremely rare in the natural world. So rare, in fact, that it's one of only 2 spiders that I would actually recommend using switcherdoodles to craft. And I'm talking about the nurse spider. First, let's look at combat ability. In pure offensive capabilities, the nurse spider is probably the second weakest, the only weaker spider being the normal spider. Sure, it may have 400 HP and it has an attack speed of 3, but it is one of the only spiders that can actually be stun locked. To make matters worse, it has the weakest attack of any spider, at only 10 damage per hit. Luckily for the nurse, combat ability isn't defined just by the ability to do damage. The nurse is actually the best spider in terms of combat ability because it can heal other spiders a lot. After attempting 3 attacks, the nurse spider will use its healing ability, jumping into the air and emitting a golden web when it lands. Any allied or neutral spiders within the golden web will be healed for a whopping 150 HP. That's typically how much damage boss monsters do to mobs. Considering you can have way more than just one nurse spider doing this ability, a few nurse spiders can turn a losing battle into one where you not only win, but you don't even lose a single spider. They are so good in combat, if you gather enough of them, you can even take out raid bosses, like the dragonfly, without wearing any armor, since the nurse spiders heal Weber for 8 HP each. Even outside of combat, they are incredible, since you can set up things like healing stations, where the nurse spiders continuously use their healing ability forever, allowing both Weber and his spiders to heal by standing in a location for a few seconds. In terms of availability, they are the least available spider in the wild, since they only have a chance to spawn from a spider queen. This isn't a problem though, since their Switcherdoodle is extremely cheap, as it uses honey as its main ingredient. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you know that the amount of honey that you can get in a single day is pretty ridiculous. So availability wise, they aren't quite as available as normal spiders and warriors, but the recipe is so cheap that getting them in large quantities shouldn't be an issue. Because of their unparalleled value in combat and their more than decent availability, the nurse spider sits solidly in the S tier. The last spider on the list is the flip side of the nurse. It doesn't have the support abilities of the nurse, but it is the best offensive weapon in Weber's arsenal by far. And I'm of course talking about the spitter. They have the greatest offensive ability out of all the spiders in the game, and it isn't even close. First, like the shattered spider, they have a ranged attack. They basically spit a fast moving projectile at the enemy. The projectile actually travels for quite a distance, but the spitter will only use this attack when they are about a tile and a half away from the target. The spitter's range attack deals twice the damage as a shattered spider's, 20 damage per hit. Being able to do the normal 20 damage at range is incredible compared to other spiders. So why is this, you ask? It's because when your army is large enough, there comes a point in which some of your spiders won't be able to attack the target simply because they can't get close enough due to other spiders being in the way. Being able to attack at range means that the spitters don't have this limitation, and their damage will continue to scale with their numbers. However, the range is not even the best thing about the spitter's attack. When using its ranged attack, the spitter has by far the fastest attack speed out of all the spiders. If in range, it will launch a projectile every 2.4 seconds. Other than spider warriors and dangling depth dwellers, spiders have an attack speed of 3. Just look at the side-by-side comparison of the spitter's attack speed and that of the shattered spider. The spitter is able to attack 9 times in less than the time it takes a shattered spider to attack 7. The shattered spider has the strongest attack, dealing 25 damage per hit, but due to the spitter's faster attack speed, the spitter actually has a higher DPS. Not only does the spitter deal the most damage at the furthest range, but it also has 350 HP. This puts it just 50 HP short of the highest HP of all spiders. And really, that 50 HP doesn't make a huge difference, considering the strongest enemies deal about 150 damage per hit. So against powerful enemies, the spitters can pretty much take as many hits as spider warriors, dangling depth dwellers, and nurses. And of course, the cherry on top of the cake is that the spitter cannot be stun locked. Availability wise, the spitter is found in the same stalagmites that the cave spiders are found, except they only have a 33% chance of spawning compared to the cave spider's 66. This is probably because the spitter is like an evolved version of the cave spider, as it's better in almost every way. Once you found the stalagmite terrain biome, or the red mushy forest in the caves, you can get a decent number of them. In addition to that, their Switcherdoodle isn't that expensive as well. Niter is the main ingredient, and I don't usually have much use for the stuff, so in my opinion, it's also a decent way to obtain them. So to recap, the spitter has the highest DPS out of all the spiders in the game, doesn't even have to be close to the enemy in order to start damaging it, has almost the highest HP out of all the spiders, and has relatively decent availability. Unfortunately though, the spitter has one huge weakness. As discussed before, it has the highest DPS out of all the spiders in the game. However, that's only true when it's using its range attack. If the enemy manages to get close to the spitter, it will stop using its range attack and start using its bite. Unlike the range attack that fires so rapidly, the bite is the exact opposite, extremely slow. It's the same slow attack speed as a spider warrior and dangling depth dweller. So when they are right up to the enemy, spitters go from being the best attack force in Weber's arsenal to basically a worse version of the spider warrior. Although this is a legitimate weakness, there are ways to mitigate this, which I will probably talk about in later videos. Because of their very high HP, unparalleled offensive capabilities, and decent availability, I place a spitter at the bottom of the S tier. So that's all 7 spiders, but before we conclude, I wanted to make one final and very important note. As you know, this tier list is geared towards determining which are the best spiders to use for combat, as the 2 criteria are how well they fight and how easily you can get them. However, if we were to broaden our perspective to also encompass resource production, then there's one spider that joins the nurse and the spitter in the S tier, and that's the normal spider. The normal spider has very low health compared to all the others, hits fast, is easy to obtain in mass numbers, and has a spawner that can be located anywhere. Because of this, the normal spider is invaluable as a means of farming monster meat, silk, and glands, all very important items for the player, especially monster meat. No other spider comes close to producing these 3 resources as quickly as normal spiders. Therefore, if we're broadening out our tier list to include resource production, the normal spider jumps to the top of the S tier since it plays such an important role in any player's game. And that's my spider tier list after the Weber rework. Thanks for watching, let me know what you think in the comment section. If you liked the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Take care everybody, and have a great day.